People in Uvalde, of course, have strong feelings about the sale of assault weapons after 19 students and 2 teachers were killed at Robb Elementary. And joining us now for the first time since the tragedy to answer questions about the investigation is Governor Greg Abbott. Governor, thank you for taking the time. We have a lot of ground to cover here.
Sure.
First, May 27th, 3 days after the massacre, you said you were misinformed and misled about the actions of officers. Governor, who misled you?
So the people who provided the information that I wrote down on those notes that I made public that anybody can see were the people around the table, including law enforcement at every level, whether it be federal, state, or local. They provided the information that I wrote down that I then left that room and went out to the public and recited that information. As we all now know, that turned out to be erroneous. Part of it did, at least anyway. And then more importantly, as more information has surfaced, such as the videotape, we've learned even more. Our goal, the goal of all of us, is to ensure that the public is going to get to know every detailed fact about exactly what happened here. And because of the videotape, the audio tape, as well as the multiple investigations that are still taking place as we speak right now, we will have a minute-by-minute checklist of exactly what happened.
All right,
so
Governor, the
most important thing is that the people of Uvalde and the families get to know what happened.
So you just talked about there are a lot of people in the room who gave you the wrong information. I wonder, will there be consequences for the people who gave you that information that day?
So listen, there's going to be consequences up and down the board, whether it be people in that room that day or others who were involved in the reaction to this tragic shooting. Obviously, based upon the videotape, we know that there should be consequences for the action of some law enforcement that day, but there's going to be others, ranging from what happened during the entirety of that day as well as the response in the aftermath of it. And so, yes, there will be both accountability and consequences.
Uvalde School Board and City Council calling on a special session, calling for you to call a special session to raise the minimum age for buying an assault rifle. Will you call such a special session?
So what I've done already is I issued a charge to the Texas House and Texas Senate to begin investigating any and all matters concerning what happened in Uvalde, as well as what we as a state need to do to respond to that tragedy. And investigations have been conducted by both chambers on all those topics, one of which led to that 77-page investigative report that was issued by the House of Representatives, others of which led to additional funding provided by the legislature of more than $100 million for the state to help the local community better deal with both school security as well as things like mental and behavioral health situations. And they are still working as we speak to hammer out agreement on items that will help address the challenges that arose during the Uvalde shooting.
So, Governor, you're calling for investigations. I think everybody would agree that's a good idea. But will you, in fact, call a special session specifically about raising the limit on who can buy an assault weapon?
Well, listen, there is no agreement on anything like that whatsoever. What there is agreement on that everybody agrees upon, and that is we need to get to the root of the problem. The root of the problem that was abundantly clear with regard to the shooter there in Uvalde was a very serious mental health issue. It was clear to members of the community long before the shooting took place. In fact, the nickname of the shooter was school shooter. We need to get back to two situations. One, when you see something, say something. But a bigger issue is we need, as a state and as a country, to understand there are people with mental health challenges whose challenges need to be addressed, and we need to begin to address those challenges. I want to point this out very importantly, because in the aftermath of what happened in the Santa Fe shooting, since then, we've appropriated about $16 to $15 billion to address mental health in the state of Texas, including behavioral health issues in schools, and created a program that reached about 300 independent school districts around the state. Unfortunately, it had not reached the Uvalde ISD at the time of this shooting.
Right, and that's very unfortunate. Governor, when will you order DPS to release their body cam footage from the day at Robb Elementary?
Listen, I want every law enforcement agency, including DPS, to release body cams, whether it be video or audio, because the public needs to know exactly what happened. The public benefited so much by getting to see this videotape of the 77 minutes of exactly what happened there on the campus that day. And I want to see releases of all information.
And when?
So that
When
the
would
public
you-
will really know exactly what
But
happened.
it's your-
as soon as possible.
As soon as possible. So I guess you'll give us a heads up exactly when that will happen. We have some other ground to cover. As it relates to abortion, the abortion law goes into effect in Texas in 29 days. The one exception is if the mother's life is in danger. There's some confusion, Governor, among doctors over the guidelines for determining when a woman's life is in danger. What are you doing to clear up the confusion so lives are not put at risk?
Well, listen, very importantly, you talk about something that's an essential component of this law, and that is protecting the life of the mother. And what you asked me was basically a medical question. It's going to be up to doctors to determine when the life of the mother is endangered. But there is the expectation that this law is going to protect the life of the mother as well as the life of the baby.
Will you, Governor, will you penalize women who leave Texas to go to a state to get an abortion where abortion is legal?
Let me tell you two things about that. First, the abortion laws in the state of Texas don't punish the mother. They punish those who provide the abortion. Second, on the leaving the state, you may recall that issue was addressed by an opinion issued by Justice Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court, taking that issue off the table.
All right. Governor Greg Abbott, thank you for taking the time this afternoon to talk to us. And if you missed any part of my
Sure,
discussion,
my pleasure.
Yes, sir. If you missed any part of our discussion with the governor or want to see it again, it will be up shortly on KHOU 11 Plus, available on your Roku or Fire TV, and on KHOU.com.